Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Waseem Bhatti, Principal Solution Architect here at UnifyApps. And today we're going to focus on the BFI space and specifically on how you can move agentic AI from pilots into production. Every BFSI leader today is feeling one of these three forces, and they're all happening really together at once. Number one, regulatory pressure, more rules, being faster, being audit-ready proof is now being expected by default. Customer expectations, real-time personalized, always across every channel, and legacy costs that's compounding every quarter. And now the question isn't whether we can adopt AI, but it's how fast can you deploy it at scale without compromising compliance or customer trust. The challenge is that 95%, and I'm sure we've all seen this metric, 95% of enterprise AI pilots are stalling before they show measurable ROI. This is from the study and findings from MIT and McKinsey in 2025. And the reason isn't the models themselves, as AI is not what's breaking within the enterprise, but rather it's the enterprise structure and architecture that's breaking and failing when trying to coexist with AI. And specifically in the BFSI space, we're digitally rich, but the intelligence side is starved. We have data that's siloed, actions that are locked inside legacy systems, compliance is being proven by hand. And so you get that reality of a pilot purgatory, endless experiments that never reach production. Each agent needs custom integration and compliance is reproven at every single step. And so really quick, a quick word of who we are and what our narrative and perspective is. UnifyApps is built by operators who have shipped global enterprise software before. Our founders, our co-CEO Raji Thomas, Bhavitar Singh, they built Sprinkler. This is a company that they grew to 750 million in revenue, took it public on the New York Stock Exchange, and served a majority of the Fortune 100. And these leaders are now doing it again by building our AI native organization called UnifyApps. We have over 900 people, hubs on 3 continents, over 11,000 platform capabilities, 950 plus enterprise connectors today, and large customers that spread across 15 plus industries. And what we've done is built this specific category and an idea behind it. And that category we built is what we call the agentic automation for the enterprise. You can think of this as the fourth platform. See, the CIOs need a horizontal AI operating system that can sit alongside your system of records, your data platform or your cloud or where you are going to be building out your solutions, and then for the models and the LLMs that you're going to be investing in. And our thesis is very clear and concise for the enterprise to scale AI within a process, is that the models roughly make up 20% of the work, but our platform gives you the other 80% that models cannot do on their own. Think about the automation, the orchestration, the compliance, the ability to build atomic and compose big. This is what allows you to do things 10 times faster, 10 times cheaper, and 10 times easier to maintain. And that's what our platform, what UnifyApps provides our customers. So how we actually do this and how this all works is simply on a single page of our platform. Here you can see how we allow you to do that 80% right in terms of scaling AI across an enterprise. At the very bottom, we allow you to connect all your structured, unstructured, edge data and allow you to be able to set that as your base. So your enterprise can plug in your CRM, your ERP, your collaboration documentation tools, your identity and your risk compliance. And then in the middle sits this enterprise brain, our global context graph that synthesizes 3 things: the knowledge, the truth across your systems, the governance, who may act, and the actionability, what actually can be done. And then on top of that, you have 3 builders. You have the workflows for what needs to happen, the agents for what AI does autonomously, and the apps where people can act and have a canvas to see what's going on. And all this is wrapped end to end with universal governance, from the observability of the agents to the touch of the enterprise knowledge to the systems, from audit, security, compliance, and then being able to synthesize that into the brain and giving you that governance first perspective. And we are assembly first, allowing your brain that compounds with every use case that you add. And in the BFSI space specifically, the governance wrapper is one of the key components to this and really what's important in the whole ballgame. And I'll zoom into that for a second. See, in the BFSI space, governance cannot be bolted on at the end. We make it in the architecture. We define policy once, the agents that are built, whether on our platform or evoked in, inherited at once. Compliance is a near zero marginal cost. And every action is logged with the agent's identity and intent in immutable logs. So the agents never hold your keys. You have a credential gateway that executes and reviews every action, and you can deploy it within on-prem, your cloud of choice, or even SaaS managed. And we're sovereign supported by design. So GDPR, SOX, DBTV, DLT, real-time consent validation is built in. Now, when we talk to customers and we discuss this, the question would be like, well, why can I not just build that 80% myself and scale around an LLM? And honestly, one of our customers and one of our main customers today actually had that simple question. They're a top 5 US retailer, and they said, we spend 250,000 hours a year matching invoices by hand, and we now have access to an LLM. Can AI help? And their scope was clear. We have over 2 million invoices, over millions of receipts, POs, and 18 million a year in loaded labor. So this was a perfect use case for them. And they believed that with 3 months, 4 engineers, and 150K, that they could solve this problem. But as they got to step 1, they began to see what it really takes. For example, being able to connect all their finance systems, that alone was over 23 and over 100 APIs before the AI did anything useful, before the LLM was even utilized. So in your world, in the BFSI world, think about the core banking system, the CRM, the case management, the screening systems. And once you start figuring out the systems, you'll realize that the data from all these systems don't always agree with itself. And that starts getting you to that ability to start standardizing the information. So for this example, the client needed to standardize invoice and vendor data. The same vendor shows up 8 ways across Salesforce, NetSuite, DocuSign, Shadow IT, multiple PO formats. And someone has to reconcile all of that before you can even utilize AI to reason over it. And once you standardize the data, you now have to start thinking about, how do I orchestrate the work? And so step 3 was starting to look at, okay, orchestrating the approval workflow. And this was just one of 20 workflows that they identified was part of the process they would need. There was multi-tier routing engines, exception handling, ability to call multiple models. And now you can see at this point, you're building software and you're not configuring AI. And we haven't even gotten to the next point of this journey, which is the humans still need to act. So you need to build a human interface, the authentication, the role-based access, the approval, the permissions, review screens when context is there, and do you need evidence? How do people make decisions? And then only now do you actually get to the step of, what does the actual AI component look like? What do the agents look like? So now you want to start building them. The client realized that there wasn't going to be one agent to do this process, but they needed multiple ones, over 10 of them for this one process. An agent builder, a team of agents, guardrails, metering, FinOps visibility, valuation, context and memory management. And so the model, once again, the 20% of the 100% is very easy. Everything around it is all the work. And then the final 2 steps, number 1, you have to write it back, being able to get back the information to those reconciled data silos, all 23 source systems reliably without retries or with retries and integrity. So reading it is the easy part, but writing back to the system of record where most projects is where most projects usually stall. And then the part that's very relevant for everyone on this call and kind of where the industry can never skip is, how do you have that governance? Governance with the CISO's reviews, observability, trace management, DLP, encryption, key management, PII masking. For a bank or for anyone in the BFSI space, this could never be optional, and it's never at the end of the list. And so if you look at these 7 steps that it takes to really build that 80%, you also have to realize that this is just one use case. In an organization, you have hundreds of use cases around finance, supply chain, sales, HR, operations. And so when you try to build one of these or go down this journey by itself, you are forever in that pilot purgatory trying to rebuild each item versus having a horizontal platform like UnifyApps that allows you to do that 80% in a reusable assembly first way. So going through those journey slides of that client, what you saw is that 80%. And once again, the model is only 20%. And the models themselves keep getting better and better on its own, which is amazing. But the other 80% is the knowledge, the governance, the actionability, the write back, the auditing, the rest of the game. We always give this analogy that when you think about a great plane, take the Boeing 747, the engine itself was made by Rolls-Royce, which is great. But the overall aircraft, the experience, that's through Boeing. And what our platform is is the aircraft around the engine. Now, for our clients, what's great is out of the box, we have multiple use cases in our master application agent catalog for the BFSI space. So we have proven in production use cases that our clients are able to see and understand what's the ROI anticipated from it, where is it live, and what kind of value it could have for their organization. So whether it's looking at customer service and engagement, claims processing, intake to settlement, fraud detection, AML and financial crime, even narrative generation, we have use cases live today. We have over 950 agents in production, over 100 million in documented savings, multiple departments covered, 25 process areas transformed. And all of this is available to anyone on this call or anyone that watches this recording. We are happy to send you what we call our master application, agent and application catalog for the BFSI space. Not to get more into the exciting part of today, I actually have a live demo to show what this could look like. As I have discussed, we are that agentic automation platform for the enterprise and want to show to an AI-powered anti-money laundering command center. This is the kind of thing that sits in our Mac and we can assemble for different banks. Kind of part of the journey, which you're going to see today, is we are going to be following Sarah Chen, who is part of an investigations team. Historically, when she would try to look at different signals or potential threat vectors, she would have to look through multiple different systems, try to figure out if there's a case, look at the different policies and reporting to understand. But we're going to see in this future state is how she has a team of agents that triage and prioritize those alerts, gather context across systems. It helps draft the investigation narrative as well as recommendations on actions, while giving her that human in the loop to make that final decision. And we can actually see what this shift in this operating model looks like. So I'll go ahead to my screen here and I'll move on over. So what you're starting to see now is the starting point for Sarah's day. So once again, Sarah is a senior AML investigator. And right now, immediately, she can see on this screen a few things. Number one, at the very top, we can actually see that she has active agents working through alerts and issues right at this time. And then she has her full alert queue of different signals. Now, this is not a set of different cases that may be assigned to her and different things she needs to work on, but rather these are what this team of agents have already worked through. So on my agent status tab, I can see what's complete, what's still investigating, who is the customer. And when I drill into this, I can see the whole cognitive analysis that my team of agents had done. To understand what that looks like, we'll look at Meridian Global's holdings that actually was flagged. It has a risk score of 87. The flag itself is for unusual counterparty geography. So once I go into this review tab, I'll let this load up really quickly. I'm going to see a multitude of information that is provided to me. Number one, I've broken this out in my view into 3 columns. On the left column here, I can see every system the team of agents are touching to build a case, whether it was the core banking for the Know Your Customer profile, whether it's a transaction monitoring system, the counterparty intelligence, the sanctioning adverse media, the case management, all these systems that the team of agents are looking through to understand this risk vector. I can see where it's coming from. And then on the right, I can actually see the rationale and the recommendation. I can see the confidence rating that the team of agents have in terms of what they've estimated, what they understand. I can see the time that it took for the alert itself. And I can see I'm having more of that human in the loop experience if I want to accept this recommendation. Maybe I want to override it. Maybe I want to escalate it to a senior investigator, as well as provide any notes I observe. And then here in the middle, I can see the full auditable reasoning chain, the thought process the team of agents went through. Are these what regulators want to see when they ask? Or this is what our regulators know what they want to see is, if they say, how did the AI or your solution decide or make this decision? It's able to see step-by-step what was analyzed, what was pulled. And then here at the very bottom, I can see that it has flags of the PI I'm asking, the audit trail, even the model used. If that's something relevant that I need to know, those are things that my client and the individual can see themselves. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and accept the recommendation, which is creating the case. As soon as I select that, we'll see that the case is automatically open. It's generated a case ID. It's linked the evidence. Notifications to anyone downstream in the process is sent. And I can actually see back in my alert queue that if I go to my cases tab, that I'm most likely going to see that new case that was created. So just to kind of follow this journey, if I go to that case tab, I can see I now have an open case for today's date that Sarah Chen had for Meridian Holdings. This is where she can now go ahead and understand everything that was linked from that initial alert queue and get into the details of it. So for us to see now kind of what this journey is, the first thing I get is I actually have the case narrative. Once again, my team of agents are continuing to bring the story and weave in everything that's driving this potential risk, from the narrative to what was the recommendation to the confidence rating of the team of agents and what it's saying, which is, hey, the transaction structuring patterns looks like a suspicious activity report should be filled based off of this regulation. The velocity and amount went over how much we recommend. This is where now we can start understanding more and more in the overview of the case. If there's any evidence and documentation, it's connected here. I still have that single view to know what is going on. I can see who the investigator is that will work on this, as I maybe need to continue to revisit this or help get this down to its finish line. Now, what's amazing for any bank that's utilizing this or any client, if I go to this policies tab, I can actually see the compliance that we would utilize, and we get to own the rules. So here I have 12 detection policies, each with different thresholds and jurisdiction scope, all editable, all version controlled. And the agents do not invent this policy. All the team of agents are doing is enforcing the policy that your compliance team writes. So if I look at this first policy rule, this high velocity transaction anomaly, when I go into it, I can see that every policy has its own performance dashboard, false positive rate, alert volume, cases open. And now I can see even the performance analytics, the logic behind it, the threshold parameters. And these are things that I can edit, I can run tests, I can deprecate, I can modify. So as we pull in new threat vectors or new signals, or we have historical ones that we want to run as weighted analysis as policy, I can easily do that here. And then I can also generate reporting and give the picture for the leadership. So this is where I can start giving that visibility to leadership to say, hey, what's our auto cleared rate? How much of the agents are they actually saving time through pre-alert investigation? How is our SLA? How are we above the 96%? Then maybe there's a board level review. All this can be exported to PDF. I can set it for a certain time to look at. And then I have my full audit log. And this is where every action, every agent decision, every investigation override is captured here. Timestamp, actor, action, IP address. All this in this front-end UI experience that's built on UnifyApps that allows me as this investigation worker to easily see everything I need and have more of an AI native way to resolve an anti-money laundering threat signal. And then at the very end, I still have a conversational agent available to me where I can ask it any questions and it can support me with anything maybe I want to infer. Maybe I want to ask, hey, what is the latest risk or some item that's going on? I could simply see that here. Now, with the time that we had left, what I'd like to do is actually go into the back end of the platform and actually show you the team that's working to allow Sarah to resolve this. So I'm actually going to open up this separate tab. Here, you're actually now seeing the actual platform in the back end of UnifyApps, which once again, we are this horizontal, no-code operating system that allows you to build the 80% that you need to go 100% full production with AI. When I hover over to the left, you'll start seeing those capabilities that I talked about on that canvas, where you connect your enterprise systems, where you can create that AI ontology and data layer, so that enterprise brain from all the different disparate data sources. You have your workflow layer where you can create those reusable functions and workflows, as well as your application layer. So what you and I saw a moment ago with that AML use case that Sarah is working through, that was a UI experience built with our no-code app builder, UnifyApps. That full experience we saw Sarah in can be a standalone application, could be a mobile application. It could even be embedded in the tool she's using today. So if they had a homegrown SharePoint site, maybe they had a CRM of choice or different tools, we could have embedded within it. And then she has her space to build or single agents, team of agents. We can invoke, expose what we build as MCP tools through MCP servers. You can invoke agents that you've built in other tools and utilize those, as well as expose agents you build on our platform and other tools. But here I have my team of agents. I can see that I have my team leader agent called the financial crime agent, and then all the different agents that were part of the process. And so even at the team manager level, I can select the model that I'm utilizing. I can set a multitude of different guardrails and settings and sessions, whether it's PII masking, whether it's hallucination management and a detection model for it, as well as all the different components. If I go down to the settings section, when it comes to building agents on our platform, we allow our clients to be able to select different LLMs for the different sections of what an actual output from a model will give, from the task processing to the indexing to even the guardrails. So let's say you're a Claude shop and you say, I like to use Fable for very complex things. I use Sonnet or Haiku for very simple things, and I use Opus for medium. And I need to make sure I'm using the right model for the right activities because I'm limiting my token economics. This is where you can start selecting different models to do things. Maybe for the indexing, I can use certain components. For response generation, I'd probably use something pretty simple. For the task detection and execution, I may use something else. And then maybe you have an on-prem model that has all of your guardrails and vectors and signals on how you would handle any content or denied topics. Maybe you would like to utilize that. And for my full visibility and understanding kind of what our sessions allow our clients to pull, I'll actually go into one of the specific agents that I have. So for example, I have this Know Your Customer agent. Here I can see that same level of granular configurations that I can do. But if I go to one of the different sessions that I've had on this agent, so I'll just pull one up simply. I can see a multitude of information. Immediately, once this trace loads, I can see everything from the pre-processing to the post-processing, the input and output schemas for the trace. When I open up this view conversation, I can see what the full conversation was that was captured by the agent. I can see the full chain of thought of what was captured and what was executed. I'll reload this really quick this session to see if it loads. But once it does, you'll be able to actually see everything from the query, the cost, the tokens, the guardrails, the filtering. And the beauty of our platform, because we are assembly first and able to really expose this information all across, is internally at the admin level, I can see this, but this level of fidelity and view, I could also externally show out in that UI experience. So Sarah, if she was looking at that output that came around the Know Your Customer profile insight, she could have seen, okay, this is what was input, this is what was output, this was the PII that was handled, this is what the session looked like. So all the information is given. UnifyApps, we truly believe in not black boxing any of this, but rather that glass box concept. So you're able to see everything in terms of the sessions of the agents, as well as setting the guardrails, and even looking at it from an observability standpoint, such as the spending limitation. We've had clients that come to us that have ran $1 million plus bills overnight because they didn't have any FinOps visibility into how much is the spending available per user or a limit per month. And this goes into our larger area of our AI governance tab, in which we have metering and FinOps visibility. You have the guardrails and evaluation capabilities, such as being able to analyze and evaluate the outputs from the agents to the users, as well as controlling the agent settings for what models are available to what teams and what users, and being able to ensure that only the right information is being utilized. So this is kind of a brief back-end view of the AML demo that we had seen. Some last areas that I would cover here. Once again, we also have the ability to store memories. So think of this as the agents understanding more and more about Sarah Chen and the different AML evaluators from past conversations, as well as being able to do those evaluations live that I talked about, where we're able to analyze and assess the outputs from the agents to ensure that if a financial crime is being handled by this agent, that the outputs are what we would expect. Now, I know we have about 6 minutes left, so I will wrap up kind of where we are, and then we'll take a quick look at any last questions. So as you had seen in the demo, what our platform allows for our clients is to go from that digitally native experience in which the human is doing the work and AI may recommend, or you may have no AI in it, but you are still doing the context jumps, you are still gathering, writing, and doing actions, and the speed and cognitive value is really limited by the human throughput. to this future state that you are now AI native, in which the agents act within policy, the humans can handle the exceptions, the triage, the investigation, the drafts. The agents have that cognitive capacity to do much quicker, and then execute routine actions autonomously, log every step policy bound, and allow the human in the loop for exceptions, approvals, escalations, and then having the guardrails in your architecture. Make sure policy is inherited by your agents and that the full audit trail is there by default. And so for our clients, what we say is to cross the Gen AI divide. It really is going to come down to allowing us help you find the right high value use case and pick a real operational one, just like our AML example, not a science project, not something that's not going to have that defensible return. And then we allow you to quickly prove it into production in weeks, thanks to the velocity of our platform. And ultimately, we want to help you grow that enterprise brain. In this assembly first architecture, every use case adds context that allows you to reuse in the next one, and your value compounds. And so at UnifyApps, we allow you to run your models. We sit above your cloud investments. We work alongside your existing silo data you've invested, and we orchestrate all of that to give you your own intelligence. And it's not something that's rented out. So with that, I say thank you to everyone that joined us this morning. If it's evening or afternoon, thank you also for chiming in. And we'll open it up to any questions or any follow-ups that come from this. Thank you.